Hey everyone, this is the new smaller and most importantly much cheaper TIE Fighter from the 2021 LEGO Star Wars collection. They kept things pretty bare bones here with no side builds, but in addition to the TIE Fighter pilot, you also get 2 more minifigs. With a lot of the focus on reducing the budget for this compared to most of the TIE Fighters that we've gotten for many, many years, I'm actually surprised by how much building effort goes into the so-called wings, or the solar panels / radiator panels, because they have some serious thickness to them and they have some serious strength, and there's a fair amount of detail in there. The number of pieces that goes into each is kind of impressive. I feel like it may even be a bit excessive, and they are plenty sturdy. I mean, I can move this back and forth just a little bit, but compared to some stuff of the old days, it is significantly more swishable, significantly more durable. Ultimately, they use Technic pins to hold each of these side panels on, and they did use a new piece that is based on the 4+ design for a basic TIE Fighter wing, but instead it's just a single little panel in there. It's a little 6x6 square that has some Technic connectors on the underside. I can show you that here quickly. So it's just the light gray piece there. So that is where you get most of your structural support to attach these. They definitely did not cheap out too much on the main fuselage section that is built up pretty well and has a pretty respectable shaping for something that is not an advanced level model. You know, doesn't use too many pieces, but I think it goes together pretty well. I think that it looks pretty good overall. And as usual, you're able to open this up in the front and also on the top to put a single minifigure down in there. They just have basic controls off to the side with a little 1x1 stud piece in trans red there, but you know, that's just what you need and nothing more. And then it has spring-loaded shooters on the underside. They have switched to the trans bright green for the bolts here, hoping that that will stop people from complaining that the wrong color is used, even though this now looks wrong when they're actually in there, because they should be, you know, the laser barrels always glow red in every single media, in the movies, in every toy that gets it right, etc. But the bolts themselves, of course, should be green once they shoot out. So you're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't, unless you go with a dual molded setup where most of the bolt is green, but then just the tip is red. But this is a fine compromise. This thing even looks respectable from the back, and they do have the suggestion of the actual TIE, right? The twin ion engines, which many of them have not had, and that has bugged me. These are super simple, but at least they're there. I feel like the size of this TIE Fighter is not an issue for me as a Star Wars fan. However, the proportions are. So I actually don't have the most recent general normal minifig scale Imperial TIE Fighter from LEGO, but I've got this one, which is, you know, using the exact same overall proportions, the First Order Special Forces one. And you can see that the big difference here is that these have much larger, you know, the more proper model has much larger panels, much larger solar panels, much larger radiator panels compared to the size of the main fuselage and the cockpit area. So between these two, this has a much smaller cockpit, like the overall visual weight here and the actual physical size is about as small as it can get without making it too blocky. But still, relatively speaking, the wings, if you call them that, are tremendously smaller on this one. That makes this actually look a lot more like the Star Wars Rebels animated series version of a TIE Fighter, although to match that, it would need to be made wider. So there are some examples that exist in the canon of depictions of TIE Fighters that did not have super tall panels on the sides compared to original trilogy and sequel trilogy as well. But I don't think this was supposed to be a Rebels one, and if it was supposed to be, then it's too narrow. So no matter what, the proportions aren't quite right. Another comparison that I wanted to make was to the ASCII art version of a TIE Fighter, the original one from LEGO, which has these wings that are like a little bit crazy. But look at this. The sizes of these are actually fairly similar, and the proportions are similar as well. This one did have slightly taller panels, but not as long as viewed from the side. And of course, the level of detail, the difference there is tremendous. I personally wish that And I'm sure that the designer tried all sorts of different things and had their usual restrictions on, ease of building and durability to actually play and all that. But I do wish that this had a little bit less detail, a little bit less durability, a little bit less thickness, I guess, in these panels, just a little bit more size. Here are the 3 minifigures, the TIE Pilot, of course, the Family Guy style Stormtrooper, and the Imperial Protocol droid N1L8 or Annihilate. The printing for all 3, no, I'm going to say the printing for the first 2, the 2 troopers, is pretty good. The printing for the Protocol droid draws me in a bit with the colors for the wiring. I like that. I appreciate having some actual print on the legs, but the level of detail there doesn't feel that good. It feels kind of blotchy to me for some reason with the 2 layers that they have. I just wish that the lines had looked a little bit finer. It looks kind of old to me. It looks about 10 years old, which is definitely not the intent. It's just how the production worked out with the approach to trying to get some depth in there. I feel like it just wasn't that successful. Underneath here, of course, there's no face to see for the Protocol droid, but no alternate faces for the 2 troopers, but no angry clone anymore. Thank you very much. These are the few leftover pieces, and there was no sticker sheet for this set. Everything's a print. Now, while I mentioned proportions and size a number of times, the real big deal here, please forgive the pun, is the price. Because this is $40 US, 40. Compare that to the last minifig scaled TIE Fighter thing that we got for the last movie, Rise of Skywalker, the Sith TIE Dorito or Dorito Fighter. That was $80. This is $40. That was $80. This is $40. That's half. That's a dramatic difference for just a generic mainline disposable fighter, bad guy fighter. And yeah, the proportions of this aren't that great, but it costs half as much. It's still a good build. Okay, to be a little bit more apples to apples, compare the price of this to the last larger Imperial TIE Fighter that we got, which was from the Solo movie in 2018. That was $70. All right. The First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter that I showed you earlier in the video, that was also $70. This is $40. So if you want to have a couple of TIE Fighters in the background chasing down your X-Wing, whether you have the new $50 one or you have the previous significantly more expensive one or UCS or whatever, if you just want to have more than one of these for less than $140, this is a way to do it. You can save quite a lot by getting one of these or by massing these, whichever you want to do. I think just the price of this alone opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of people that would not have been able to accomplish certain things in their collection and their displays had this not existed. I personally still am not going to be able to get past the proportions. I feel that I probably won't be alone in that, but I feel like there will probably be plenty of people who will be able to get past that, who aren't too much the sticklers for exact proportions and will think this looks perfectly fine. And if this looks perfectly fine to you, then go for it. If you want it, I'm telling you, you should get it because, again, the build is good. You probably get more here than you need to accomplish this shape of thing, right? And it accommodates the single figure like it's supposed to just fine. But yeah, it's all about that price, isn't it? I personally will not be able to look at it as a Rebels one. I just don't accept in my own headcanon that the Rebels design was correct, even if they had this a little bit wider. I just kind of pass on that a little bit, just take it as a little stylistic detour that they took. But yeah, $40 for a TIE Fighter. Not too shabby on the value side of things. Let me know what you think about these proportions. I'm curious to hear what the portion of viewers would be who think it's perfectly fine as is, who think it's a good enough compromise given how much cheaper it is, even though you can see that it's not quite right, or how many are like, no, this is just completely unacceptable. It doesn't matter how cheap it is, it just doesn't look right. Let me know your thoughts about that. You can check out the build if you'd like to see how extensive it actually is for this this small number of pieces, and I'll talk to you again soon.